So we'll call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order at 7:49. We just have one item on the agenda. Mr. Taylor's here. Mr. Booth could not attend. So the one item is citywide facilities, securities, and policies and procedures for checking in, registering, and that kind of thing. So I think that's something that's long overdue. And the discussion in the rec committee meeting, as we now know that Poly Field's being vandalized. And if we have some kind of security stuff up.
There's cameras down there.
Yeah.
Does the camera still work?
The cameras still work. Me and Devin talked about that just the other day. We need to call somebody. I can't get on it anymore. I used to have it on my cell phone where I could get on and see the cameras. Somebody got on there and changed everything. The one camera that will zoom in was pointed at the ground. So somebody's had access to get in there and change everything.
Well, I have a public record request from several years ago that still has not been answered from the city because, and part of that was who had administrative access to the cameras. And to my understanding, there's only, I think, 3 people that had it, to my knowledge, but it's not confirmed.
I believe there's 4.
4? So,
There's been myself, Scott, code enforcement, and police chief.
so, yeah. Yeah, that's a public record request, not answered. Yeah, so I think that needs to be revisited. We need to figure out where that administrative access lies, and what needs to be changed to ensure that
That's what me and Devin were talking. We want to get in and get everything changed.
Yep. Agreed.
Start over.
Yep.
Because you really need it on your phone when you're down there setting cameras. So you can get them set and you can set and look on your phone exactly what they're pointed at, what they're seeing.
Right, I agree.
And it would have come in pretty handy a couple times. Somebody tried to break into the pool house down there.
Well, we had the vandalism on the pool building.
The vandalism on the wall, and then somebody tried to pry the front door. They just couldn't get into it.
So that's just one example.
One example.
I think it needs to be for this building,
Correct. I agree.
all the city buildings, facilities.
Well, I think, I mean, we've had this discussion before. Previous city managers have talked about it and discussed, providing more security here as well as access. I think that anywhere you have a window, in my opinion, there should be, for the protection of anyone who is in the building or protection from anybody who visits the building, there should be cameras in those common areas. I feel like, honestly, there should be, I know we're a public building, but, if somebody's going to be here for a meeting, and I think about liability, to the city. If somebody's going to be here for a meeting, they should probably sign in, date and time that they're here, check out when they leave, in, whatever department they're in, because I think it's important to be able to track that, because if somebody were here and an incident happens, you want to make sure that they're protected. And I'm sure if you ask the insurance company, they're probably going to say the same thing. It's it's a liability. The other thing is I want to make sure that we're protected. I know we have some forms with the police department, but if we have any type of citizens that want to do a ride along, that there's liability forms signed, and waivers indemnifying the city. So that way, if they're out, they are aware of, being on those ride alongs, that there things may happen. So.
You guys didn't have it?
We do on the police department.
There is some kind of form.
My understanding, we have some people doing ride-alongs with the code, and there's not a form being signed, which is a liability. Now, that being said, I think that's the other thing that needs to happen when we talk about overall, I'm sorry, you said security, I'm thinking liability, it's kind of the same thing.
Absolutely.
Because the code officer, my understanding, is driving his own vehicle doing code, and I don't think that's appropriate because is the city liable if he gets into a fender bender and who's to say,
If he's on the clock, yes.
you know what I mean? So that's the thing. That's what I'm a little concerned about, and I prefer he drive a city vehicle. We have vehicles that he could drive. So my opinion is that we need to be a form for whatever type of ride along that they're doing. Those forms need to be done and completed.
There is some kind of form, like if I was to have a citizen in my truck, there's a form that has to be filled out.
For every department, or just, is it a general blanket
I think
form?
it's just a general.
Okay, so,
But
I'm sorry, I bogarted your.
No, you're fine. So, but I think it needs to be a set policy procedure.
I would agree.
Everything just looked at, reviewed, and something put in place.
I definitely agree with that. I think there needs to be, definitely some policies in that. And, I think that's, I don't think it's, a violation of anybody's civil rights or personal liberties. It is a public building, but it being public everything is scrutinized by the public and subject to public record. So, I think that they, I think it's only appropriate and it's for everybody's protection, all parties' protection, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So,
So yeah, we can have, city manager look at, and the law director look at putting in some policy and procedures in place. I know we're still looking at HR companies that, for the city, and I know I think we got a couple proposals, but I don't think we have it ready yet to talk about in committee, but I think still, unfortunately, we need to get something implemented, so.
absolutely. So, then they could come back to this committee, we'll review it and then move it up to full council.
Perfect.
So, Ms. Sonic, did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, what is to stop someone from like signing in over the fire station or the police station, not walking down the hall and coming in and it's another room? What's to stop them from doing? You got a sign-in sheet, but nothing says they're gonna stay there.
Well, I guess I was more thinking like if somebody's gonna visit, the police department and meet with, an officer or chief, they sign in just so there's record that, people are in and out, or if they're at the police
Okay.
department, yeah, or if they meet with the auditor or the city manager or the code officer, I think that, because I think in a way you have then a little bit more control over, access and because it's a public building, but not everybody has access to every part of the building. They won't have access to every part of the
Yeah,
building. They
each
shouldn't,
department
so.
has its own scrutiny.
Yeah, they have their own scrutiny, own, level of security that they need to have in certain areas. Like the fire department has narcotics, so there has to be some, like, you just can't roam, right? So, and I think that it's a measure of, and my concern is too, because we've gotten complaints about, people visiting departments and what's the intent there? And then if an incident happens or something comes up missing, I mean, you have at least some level of accountability potentially of, or timeline. You can say, well, we had activity here, here, and here, and now you have, I think, a way to maybe track something.
You are aware that that big box, or it looks like a mailbox, that holds drugs.
Correct.
So anyone could get in there, I mean, figure out how to do it.
I mean, that thing
Take
is,
that
that thing is pretty difficult. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I do know that. I don't know how difficult I would think it'd be pretty difficult to get into, but yeah. But that's another thing. Maybe that needs to be.
Okay, so we'll move this on to the city manager and law director to
I would, yeah.
look into, bring something back to this committee. We can review it and then move it on to full council.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good.
may I suggest that the police department have their very own ride-along form
Specific to them.
specific to them. I'm surprised that, oh, well, anyway.
Yeah, I know we have had a form. I do know that. I don't know if it was specific to their department. Because, I mean, you know, I know that people have completed the form to go on ride along, so,
Yeah,
but,
police department, that's dangerous when you
For
got a
sure.
civilian in a cruiser with you.
I would agree.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I've got a question, but I
Okay,
don't know that it's for this committee. It's got to do with water to a point. So me and the auditor were having a talk today about something that's gonna be brought up in the utility committee meeting. And he was talking about people living in houses with no water, no running water at all. I think there needs to be something, a committee or something for that, because we have people coming in and they complain about cars on the side, like cars that have been sitting too long. And a lot of problems we had, trash on porches, and if you were able to track it back, it's gonna be a majority of these people that don't have running water. They live like that, they don't care. They don't care if they have running water, they don't care what their house looks like. We wanna clean up Nelsonville. I think we're going at it from the wrong end, and we need to start on this side. If you don't have running water, there needs to be a committee. If they can't pay their bill, then there needs to be something to start getting them out of these houses. To try to get people in that will care and will take care of stuff. And you start getting these people out, the cars are gonna start moving and everything else. It's gonna be a domino.
I agree with that. It's actually, the problem is they tend to go for the low hanging fruit and not the root of the problem. We had the same issue when we had all the complaints about the roads in the city. When we had made a pact that, I know you probably recall, we made a pact, several years back that we weren't going to start paving roads until we fixed what was underneath them before, because we were tired of paving and immediately turning around and tearing them up to dig it back up to fix a leak or something. And so that's why we went through that process, and we did those extensive projects as far as the water and sewer, and now we have nice roads. And more than likely, we won't have huge, breaks in the next couple of years that we will have to dig up.
That's like Scott, the water went up through there,
Mhm.
but we didn't pave it because we know the sewer's getting ready to come right back through there. We're gonna pave it, take it right back up. There was an issue on a section of Fort Street. I wouldn't let them pave it until we were able to come up with a solution, because at first it was gonna be, well, we're gonna have to take Fort Street up. Well, not if we pave it, we're not digging it right back there.
Correct, yeah.
So, I mean, that's why there was a new sewer line put down an alley. So then that way, nothing out had to be dug up. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is save in the long run. Cause like I was just telling Nancy, our street bond, we wanna raise it, but we gotta fix the roads right. There's a lot of stuff in the past where roads weren't fixed right, it was just, that's why we have so many potholes. It's ridiculous the amount of potholes we have. I could spend the whole paving budget on potholes.
Yeah, and it wouldn't solve the problem. We'd have those same
They
potholes.
would come right back, if the salt and stuff got done in them, they're gonna come right back, so we just, people can bear with us, and we're working it, and we got these big projects going, and we're paving stuff, and we're getting things tied in with the projects to where they're helping pay for stuff, and we're getting more paved. I mean, we got a lot paved this year,
We did.
an absolute lot paved, and because we tied it in with projects and was able to come off the long way.
So not to derail you completely off of that. So back to your original point, I think that gets back to the root problem. I would agree that, we're concerned with like parked cars or, but the issue is a greater problem. That's a deeper root, that needs to be dealt with. If we do have folks that don't have running water, I know a lot of folks use water from Bookville.
So I've been here 4.5 years, and I wasn't given an address or name, but I was told that guarantee there was one person that lives in their house that has not had running water since I started
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So,
That's the kind of person, I'm not taking anything away from anybody.
sure,
But if they don't care to have water, they're not gonna care about the outside, the appearance of their house, the trash on their property, or anything else, mowing the grass, they don't care about
But
that.
it's my understanding that they're backing off because of the gentleman's physical aspect, he has issues.
right. Well, I mean, what we did, we made it, an ordinance though, to also have trash at every location too, and then rental properties were required to have, the property owner was required to provide that, because we also had trash issues that were, they were hoarding trash, they weren't throwing it away in a receptacle, and it was creating health, issues in the neighborhood. So I think that if we do have that problem where we have people that aren't using water and sewer, it's conceivable that, that's creating a health issue surrounding those areas.
Right,
So,
and here, if I'm not from Nelsonville, and then say I'm from Columbus, and it's a quick hour drive down here now with the bypasses and everything, and I've got a family, and I wanna get them out of the city. I come down here to look, I'm not gonna notice the car's set. Car's got a flat tire, everybody gets a flat tire at some point, the car might just, but the trash, all that piled on porches, the grass knee high, that's the things that I'm gonna look at and notice, and I'm gonna be like, wow. And, I mean, so it's gotta start somewhere, but in my opinion, if we have that many people in town that are living without water, and they're just going to Bookville and filling up buckets and barrels and bringing it over,
well, that means they're
they're
using
still
sewer,
using
not
sewer
paying.
and not paying for it. So they're still living the way they want. But if they don't care enough to have water, they don't care enough to keep the grass mowed, keep trash picked up, and anything. So my thought, that's why I was asking here, is that something that like a committee could be put together or something for these houses?
Well, that might
Because
be.
because Devin was in this conversation also. And they say we have a hard time getting the health department to help us. The Athens County Health Department. So is this something that if we had a committee, this could fall back on code and PD to start pressuring? Because
Well, I think what you're bringing up is a day-to-day operational issue that the administration has to handle. Now, council can set up the mechanisms for them to use.
Well, I think it sounds like, first of all, I think the utility committee probably ultimately would be the one maybe to put forth any sort of ordinance regarding that
see,
matter.
that's what I was asking. I didn't know if it'd be utility or how it would be.
If it's, it's sounding to me more like utility because it's water and sewer potentially.
Well, it seems like a combination. If we're talking water, sewer, grass, trash, it's a combination of issues. That's why I think it should fall on the administration to handle this. Council sets the mechanism for them to use.
So they propose to us what they need in terms of legislation.
Right.
And then, but yeah, and I think ultimately, in order for potentially a health department or someone else to get involved, another department or agency within the county, those ordinances that we put in place then would probably have to be, it has to start being documented. And it has to be, so we can show a case to say, hey, this is an issue.
Well, the county health department, and this is not a negative comment at all, they do what they do. And they're not gonna come into Nelsonville. That's been shown to handle some of the issues that we feel need addressed. Maybe it's time, again, council sets the mechanism that we handle those issues ourselves.
But if we call them because we have an issue, they don't even assist because that's what else are they there for?
We've got one.
I don't know.
We've got one house that I know of. I don't even say the street.
Yeah, we don't want that.
It's got raw sewer running into the basement.
So
A neighbor from half a block down has called and complained about it. They still live there.
So that's why maybe it's time that we
I don't know what the city can do about it.
I don't either.
Okay, yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
We need to look into what is the mechanism we can put in place short of the health department that we can handle here ourselves. And that sounds like a question for the law director.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, I'd say, I propose it then, that we send it to the law director to review and give us some guidance on, because, you know, I mean, something has to give, but that to me sounds like a health department. I don't know what, I guess, maybe I don't understand what the health department's roles.
And that's what I
Is,
said.
you know,
That's why I don't want
yeah.
to say anything negatory about the health department, the county health department. They have their job.
Right.
But
Because I don't see how we can enforce something
I
on
don't
a
either.
person's individual home. If it's a rental property, I get it, that's an issue,
there you go.
but. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cohen, appreciate it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track there. I just
No, you're all right. Yeah,
didn't know where
yeah.
to ask that question,
Yep.
because I didn't know if that was something that like a committee could be formed to help with that.
You're right, though, it's bigger than just one issue as far as water or sewer, you know, there are issues, and I know we've had complaints, about, you know, porches and cars and such, but I agree, though, some of the vehicles is not the root of the problem per se.
I just personally think the way we're going at it now, we're attacking the tail end instead of the head.
We're not getting
I
ahead
agree.
of it.
We need to start on this end instead of back here, because all we're doing is chasing it. Or if we start here, it'll start eliminating itself back to here.
Yeah, well, it's not really solving the overall problem or issue that, you know, because there may be a legitimate reason why that is the way it is, and we're not even helping the citizen at that point, right? Because all we're doing is there may be a reason why they're struggling with their vehicle on the road or the stuff on their porch, and we're not really assisting them in, you know, helping them really solve their issue. And maybe creating the other issues, right? So, and just chasing people, yelling at them constantly is not always the way that.
Well, I don't know, there's many ways to look at this, because let's take Greg, for example. He's got 2 vehicles. Yes, he doesn't drive, so he drives by, he's the only one that drives either one of them. If he has a flat tire on one, he's gonna drive the other one, obviously, when he's got stuff to do. So he might not have the money for 2 weeks or 3 weeks to fix that tire. That's not saying he's a bad person, and we're getting on these
Right.
people and making them tell their, when they might just literally be sitting there with a flat tire, they can't afford it, because there's a lot of people in Nelsonville that are on limited budgets and everything else.
Correct. Yeah.
So we're attacking people in the town, like I said, on the town, instead of going after the bigger things up here where the problems lie, to eliminate everything back through here.
So I was able to attend last Friday, the code enforcement conference at Hocking College. I only caught the last like 45 minutes of it or so, but in that short time, a lot of good points were brought forward. And I look forward to, Mr. Flowers giving us an update on what he's learned by attending these conferences, because part of that falls under what was happening there. So, and if I recall, Chief Tolliver said they towed 10 vehicles last month in his report at the last council meeting. So the wheels turn slow, but 10 vehicles in 1 month, that's, to me, that seems like a pretty good start. So. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, we'll adjourn at 7:13.